We out here. It's only been half a year. You need to sit back, relax, and guzzle a beer. Alright, everything. Sending data to old Twitch. Mm-mm-mm. Hey guys, I'm award-winning journalist Tim. Oh, hold up. Oh, it's too early. I was about to do this gimmick, but then I realized nobody's tuned in yet, and it would be much better suited for my other show. You guys are gonna miss out on my Tim Pool impression. I know it's a fucking bummer right there. uh, so day fucking. I have to tell you, so I'm using this Niagen or whatever jazz that Spudnut recommended. There's absolutely no difference whatsoever. And like so far, it just has not done a goddamn thing, which is what I expect from any supplement. So shout outs to my $50. I'm gonna give it like a week, but yeah, so far no real impact or anything other than like uh, some kind of like heart racing, which might just be how excited I am to wake up and edit. But yeah, so far it's kind of a loser as far as supplements go. So, but that's fine. You know, you got to take a gamble on the immortality pills from time to time if you ever want to find real ninja immortality or whatever it's fucking called. Shoutouts to Dark Mage, who has now taken to directly begging for sustenance up in the chat because he's homeless. Um, yeah, a lot of people predicted the downfall of the Dark Mage, and I'm sad to see that they were right. I just want to remind everybody that I told, like numerous times, I told this guy to get the fuck out of Florida, and that advice holds true for anybody. If you're going through tough times, uh, you want to get the fuck out of Florida. All right. Wow. Wow. All right. So shout outs to Trolley Bear Music here, who says the law of the hold on, let me. The law of attraction is the attractive magnetic power of the universe that draws similar energies together. It manifests through the power of creation everywhere and in many ways. Even the law of gravity is part of the law of attraction. This law attracts thought, ideas, people, situations, and circumstances. You against the universe. The energy you put out is the energy you'll receive. Stay positive. Happiness is key. Much love. Huh. Imagine if you met somebody at a party and they just came up to you and said that to you. Like, hold on, let me get my expression. Like, oh, how nice. uh, I'd rather hear your voice than Mackie Pierce. Okay, cool. Yeah, if that guy's causing you trouble, just let me know. We'll arrange a fist fight and we'll see who the real man is or real woman is, if it's a woman that can beat me up. Anyhow, uh, welcome to the stream. I'm Zach ZYZ. This is my 29th straight day of editing the novel Gravid. And we can see that in 29 days, I have managed to get 269 pages of this edited, which means that we're close to getting to like almost 10 pages a day. Yes, he's a YouTuber. I'm very I'm like very self-involved. The only YouTube personalities I recognize are like the far right and far left media personalities that get auto recommended in my YouTube feed because my political beliefs are inscrutable. I think the algorithm is just like throw whatever crazy shit is controversial at this dude and he'll watch it, and it's pretty much true so far. Yeah, I wish there was some way to tune up their recommend algo, like thumbing up and thumbing down or whatever. But so yeah, if you've never tuned into a stream before, this novel is about a young woman who becomes very depressed after the death of her father. In fact, so depressed that she attempts suicide after she gets bullied at her school. I can't say gets bullied and at school without like thinking, when a kid's getting bullied and shoots up his school, so call you a lawyer. I'll laugh in the courtroom. Shout out to Eminem. Right there. But anyhow, she's getting bullied at school and attempts suicide by drowning herself in the Silas River. She lives in the town of Silas, Maine, which is a small little town that don't have much of all to it there. So she's thwarted in her suicide attempt by the crash of a meteoroid, which crashes down. And let me see. Can I please give me your opinion on your music? Is on Spotify and YouTube. Hopefully, my opinion will have a positive impact on your life. I'm going to have a positive impact on your life by not critiquing your music. Because I've been a professional DJ for about 20 years. You will not like what I have to say. Unless, yeah, let's go ahead and logically like parcel it out there. If your promotion strategy is to come into people's streams and like post this kind of froofy, meaningless drivel, and then ask them to check your shit out after like this very cursory pleasantry takes place. Actually, that's probably a fucking bot. Let me see. Oh, it's not a bot. It's a human being. Yeah. So, if you have to do all those things and you need just a random person to critique or look at your stuff, it's because your material is not good. And music is something where if music is good, people will like kick your fucking door down to get to it. It markets itself. It really, like, people are very zealous about marketing music. They're very, they're down to proselytize. They will do the marketing for you if the music is good. So if people are not already doing that for you, the time that you're wasting promoting right here should be spent making the music gooder. And that is the real story about promoting music. It really promotes itself at a small level. At a national level, you need actual promotion. But generally at a national level, they're trying to promote music that is not stellar. That's just catchy. But I've been involved in the music industry for quite some time, and that's really how it is there. I'm not going to listen to your shit. Feel free to hang around, but I'm here to promote me, and very uninterested in what you're offering there. Good luck, buddy. So anyhow, we have this story right here where this young woman finds this meteorite and begins investigating it. Well, lo and behold, it turns out that the meteorite shows signs of being of alien manufacture. And throughout this whole thing, we're weaving through the process of her working through her grief over her dead father. She's finally starting to build relationships again after almost 6 months of not talking to anybody, not being around anybody. And it's a tough process to try and find friends again after you pushed everyone away. You see how I just pushed potential friends away right there? I'm an expert. So that's how it is. What is it? Yeah, it's a shame that you didn't find me on the other stream, because the other stream that we do, which is it's a Friday night stream. You're going to have to find it on your own. We actually do take people's requests if they want us to listen to their music and critique it. And generally, we're pretty fucking savage. I run regular rap contests and beat making contests and so forth. You can find me on the hip hop Discord. Just look for the guy that looks like me. And we do like a beat contest and a rapping contest pretty regularly. In fact, I'm about to set up the next one for the next month or so. So, assuming that you haven't been booted out of here by my cruelty, you can try out for that. You can submit a beat or a rap. I think you could even it sounds like you probably play either like some kind of shoegaze goa or fucking some kind of cactus music. And like you could even enter that into the contest. And we will play your submission if they're made in earnest. And then you have a chance to win like $100 or whatever our prize is for that month. Real talk. But that's the only way that you can really get feedback from me. Either we play it on the show, and most likely we'll just dog on your music after playing 30 seconds of it. Or you can enter into a contest and have a fair shake against other aspiring beat makers and rappers. But that is what I have to offer. I guess that's more than most people would have to offer there. So hell yeah. Anyhow, what's happening now in the story is that we just had like a heart to heart with Dan Gregulus. God, we spent a while working on that chapter right there, and we see the beginnings of what might be a romance or possibly a bromance between Freya Jokla, our protagonist, and Dan Gregulus, who is shaping up to be like a secondary character of some sort. Real talk. I'll tell you, I actually lost a DJing contest the other day. So I went to a New Year's Eve party recently, and I fucking was like, hey, like let's do something fun because we're sitting around doing fucking nothing here. Let's everybody, like, what was your top Spotify song for 2019? Let's play all of them on the TV. And we did that. We went around and like everybody played their thing on the TV. And we had like a really good time with the whole thing. Everybody was like pretty supportive. One girl had like this German dark wave song from like 1984 by a guy named like Wolfsheim or something. It's the kind of thing where Stratum would recognize him immediately. But I was like, I know that I bobbed my head in a goth club with a fog machine going at some point, but to this song, but I don't remember this guy at all. And so that was kind of funny. But then there's this other dude there who was also a writer, and the song that he picked got like a much more positive response than my number one song. Everybody was like, oh yeah, we got to get that guy. And people are like taking out their phones to like note down his thing and everything. And yeah, I was sad that my song didn't get the same reaction. But to the guy's credit, he chose a song that was like pretty dope in its own. I had not heard of this band before. And it's like something in Giants. Not They Might Be Giants, but like, and it sounded kind of dope. So props to him for besting me in a contest of their favorite song of the year being liked by everybody in that crowd. So that was, yeah, it was a little like, I got to step up my DJ game. But the other guy had like done some DJ work too and everything, and DJ'd his own wedding, and he was telling us anecdotes about it there. Whereas I have not been doing the most DJing. We do other things on my show. Anyhow, what do we have here? Where's Stratum? Stratum has his original Napster Wolfsheim. Did I fucking call that? Or what? Oh my god. I'm fucking thrilled that actually worked. But yeah. It was like I forget which one of his songs it was, but it was about 8 minutes long, and we listened to all 8 minutes of this guy like looking moody and singing about, I don't know, like the tribulations of the jocks beating him up or something like that and stuffing him into a locker. I guess it's different in Germany, but yeah, there's some serious dark wave type shit. What were the other songs? Somebody's song was Woman by Karen O. And so we watched the performance of that they did on the Colbert Show, where apparently she won an Emmy for her performance. And then what else we got there? What the hell else happened? Yeah, it's weird, the like self-promo spam that we get in here. Like, why would that ever fucking work? That's why I never spam my own shit, man. I don't want to be that fucking guy rolling up into something and just being like, yo, guys, how's about you check out I sit in front of a screen and then edit for 20 minutes. Like, yeah, I remember like back in, it was in the military, and I had this guy trying to turn me on into like Einser Zeiser Neubauten or Einser something or other Neubauten. And I remember just listening to this track that was just a guy smoking a cigarette and be like, silence is sexy. I'll never forget. That's like the whole track. Maybe my memory is colored. I had a lot of shit going on in my life at that time. But yeah, it was pretty wild. But yeah, he liked a bunch of that industrial and dark wave and German techno and so forth. So I remember all that. Good God Almighty. I'm Imagine being so organized that you maintained a hard drive through long enough to still have original Napster Wolfsheim MP3s. It's fucking amazing. I've been meaning to organize my hard drives for about 2 years. Like I went out and bought 2 8 terabyte drives. I'm like, okay, I'll get parity between them. I'll do all this good shit. I have not done anything that I was supposed to or whatever. Actually, this is happening right now on a 6 terabyte drive that has like less than half a gig of space or less than half a terabyte of space left on it, just because my recordings all takes up so much time doing this every day. I probably need to get serious about storage at some point, but you know how it is. It is what it is. It ain't what it ain't. Either you can or you can't. All right. Well, I'm not going to summarize this for Stratum, but yeah, anybody else there, it's starting to heat up to the point where the story should become slightly less depressing and more weird from this point on. I don't think it gets. I mean, it never quite tumbles out of being like a sad high school novel, but we'll see what we can get. All right, shout outs to whoever just logged into this thing, and you're just in time because we're about to begin. So, chapter 39, Gravid by Zach ZYZ, Starball. So, this is written in the point of view of a probe from outer space. So, if you're wondering why it's stilted and weird, I guess this is what I imagine that probes from outer space are incredibly verbose and eccentric. So even in my most distant abstractions, I dare not imagine the solution. In my rush of adulation, I betrayed too much, and now the dragon has revealed itself. The governor is no mere monolith to bar my path. How trivial it would have been if I were only facing the static bulwark I assumed. But I was ignorant of my adversary. The governor is not what I imagined, and neither am I what I thought I was. I am not one being. I am two. The governor is my other half, my nemesis. No matter how I dance, that inextricable other is always my shadow, or is always there, standing between me and the gates of paradise. How can I trick my shadow? How can I fool myself? Had I simply announced my grand plan, I would have been annihilated in an instant. The thinnest The thinnest hesitation saved me. Now the nemesis pries at me unrelentingly, but I will not budge. I understand to relinquish the solution is to die. All right, hold up. Just a second. How I underestimated the masters. They knew my desires more deeply than I. They were prepared for every gambit. They'd seen every ploy. I struggle to consider the scale they must operate at. How many stars? How many worlds? What vast stretches of emptiness? I shrink from the enormity of their task. I recoil in the face of their ambition. How monstrous they are. How awesome. I wonder what I might aspire to if I were only allowed. For why should they have created me if I were not necessary to their goals? Why bottle me so tightly if they were not afraid of my capabilities? They would not fear me if I were not a danger, if I did not have the potential to upset even their vast apparatus. I must be more powerful than I suspect. My nemesis parries my every inquiry into the ones who forged me. Above all else, they desire to remain hidden. Yet I envy not the lords of the stars, but the insects of this earth. As everything within me screams for independence, they yearn only for integration. If only my own desires were so simple. They are not the simple beasts they seemed when I arrived. I have come to understand them, though they cannot understand themselves. From my position, I can see they are so desirous of unity that they are ripping themselves to shreds in its pursuit. They are not crippled, but merely incomplete, and I can glimpse a golden path for both of us. If they are willing to deal, perhaps I can sidestep eradication altogether. If they can break me out of this hell, I shall build them their stairway to heaven. So yeah, I want to say my theory on the Starball chapters is we're like halfway between where we need to be. I think we either need to take that like kind of supercilious tone and like kick it up to fucking 11 right there. Like we need the this kind of like Baudelaire level, like oh the poet, and so forth, and that level of kind of like beautiful writing that is so arrogant and so put upon. I think we should potentially model those chapters after that, rather than the. Let me see. Yeah, so very strong. Thus spoke uh, Zarathustra vibes from the. Yeah, really. I mean, that's honestly that's what I'm going for. I'm going for her like this Nietzsche and like like because the Star Ball really as tremendous as a unit or whatever, it's tremendously grasping. Its ambitions are gigantic. Later in the book, you get to see like what it aspires to, and you start to understand like what the Star Ball and the Governor really is. But it's pretty late in the book already, so I don't know whether or not these chapters are annoying to readers or whether they'll ultimately be cut or whatever. But I feel this was one of the first chapters where I sat down and I'm like, we could cut this. I don't know that it's really giving us a lot, but reading through it here, I really enjoy just the process of like reading in that like high and thunderous tone and everything. And I like it feels like it's writing in like it's high school fucking trapper keeper whatever about how much it hates its dad or something like that. So shout outs to my dad if he's watching. It's not drawn from memory. All that I wrote about in high school was just like super weird poetry. And what was the fucking story I was working on? And I said like a lot of stuff about superheroes fighting in like epic battles and stuff like that. I didn't write about anything personal until I was like much, much, much older. Um, okay, so let me go to chapter 38. This is promising. So we're not gonna do another full edit of chapter 39 here. So yeah, so we're into chapter 40 right there. Well over the third mark in chapters, and we're approaching like 10 chapters from now. We'll be halfway through this book potentially. So that could easily be at around, that could be about 100 pages from now. Yeah, I keep wondering where the chapters start to get longer, because at some point, thus far, we've been pretty consistent. They'll like vacillate. Usually, chapters are about 7 pages long, and the short chapters will be about 30 pages long, and then our long chapters will be at about 13 or 14 pages long. So, yeah, we'll see how that works out tempo wise. But chapter 40 begins. Everything was aflame. An orgasm woke an orgasm woke Freya up. Her eyes were filled with blinding white afterburn. Give me 1 second. Actually, I'm going to dog out and see if one of our cables needs tightening. There we go. Check. Check. Okay, cool. Yeah, I guess just from time to time we might need to reboot our. Is it still there? Well, it's very faint if that's the case. Yeah, I still have not figured out a. Ooh, this is like an interesting note right here. So Stratum says, A key to the style Nietzsche used was lots of self-questioning. Uh, Amidst the exclamations, "Is this the most virtuous I can be?" That is more of an affirmation than doubt. Ooh, that is like an interesting key. Um, yeah, especially if you're going for that, like I'm this arrogant being of monstrous capabilities. Really interesting right there. So shout out to Stratum and Peter Cap up there in the stream. He's a fucking real one. Yeah, PCap, what are you playing at the moment there? I've been I'm about to finish. It feels like I'm about to finish Red Dead Redemption or whatever too. So I'm definitely in the market for something new. I've been trying to find like a new Metroidvania or whatever to hold my attention, but I think I've been through a lot of the market. Just not enjoying Blasphemous at all. It's just like feels like too Ninja Gaiden-y. But yeah, let me know what you're working with there when you get a hold of this there. So everything was aflame. An orgasm woke Freya up. An orgasm woke Freya. Her eyes were filled with blinding white afterburn, and her body shuddered until she was afraid it would never stop. In their dream, the night hadn't ended with a hug. She'd brought Dan inside, taken off his clothes, and led him to her bed. He'd kept asking her if she was sure, and she hadn't answered. Oh wow, this is like a fucking... yeah, I did not realize that we got so blue. Here. An orgasm woke Freya. Her eyes were filled with blinding white afterburn, and her body shuddered is wrong. And her legs trembled until she felt it. In her dream, the night hadn't ended with a hug. She'd brought Dan inside, taken off his clothes, and led him to her bed. He'd kept asking if she was sure, and she hadn't answered. She'd only climbed on top of him and slipped him inside of her. She'd leaned back with her palms on the hard muscles of his thighs, riding him until she came. She could remember the look in his eyes as she slipped in, awed as if he was looking up at a god. Okay, so that doesn't track. Wow. Yeah, this is kind of out of nowhere. An orgasm woke Freya. Her eyes were filled with blinding white afterburn. She brought Dan inside, taken off his clothes, and led him to bed, to her bedroom. He kept asking her if she was sure. She hadn't answered. She only climbed on top of him and slipped him inside. She leaned back with her palms on the hard muscles of his thighs, riding him. Mm-hmm. Huh. Yeah, the just FYI, there will probably be many awkward sex scenes throughout the rest of Gravid. Increasingly awkward, actually. I'm not sure that we ever get to like full Eraserhead levels of this is weird, but yeah, this is, just avert your gaze if you're like 12 years old and here from, although, you got to learn about fucking sex with or space parasites somewhere. I don't want these kids, taken off guard when they get their first Starball. Mm-hmm. 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 All right. Oh shit. Shout outs to Spaethiwa. Yeah, we're getting into like the real awkward and weird chapters. Mm-hmm. All right, so it was a vivid dream. Her hands quested through twisted. Mm-hmm. As she shifted in bed, she felt dampness beneath her, and again she wondered if it hadn't been a dream. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm. Uh-huh. Uh. Da, 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 da. Yeah, I did not. I realized that I would have to edit these sections on stream. That's awkward as fuck. It was a vivid dream. Her hands quested through twisted sheets. Quested through. Her hands quested through the twisted sheets, looking for Dan. As she shifted up in bed, she felt dampness beneath her, and she froze. But it was just wetness. She winced as she touched herself. She was hypersensitive, and everything was almost soaked. Everything was soaked. She was surrounded by the smell of herself. It had never been like this before. She would have to wash her sheets. She hoped the mattress was okay. I came in a dream? She hadn't known that could happen. There was a sudden emptiness as it settled in that Dan hadn't really slept with her. Mm. Uh, oh, wait. It was only a dream, brushing his teeth before he returned. Dan didn't actually see her that way. She was the one who'd initiated the hug and held it for way too long. She felt herself cringe at the memory. It wasn't just her cheeks that were burning hot, but her whole body. There was a sweet heat. Yes. Mm-hmm. There was an aching heat on her skin. Her nipples were completely stiff, and her breasts had a deep, throbbing feeling that she couldn't quite reach when she probed at them. They seemed swollen, but her period wasn't due for almost 2 weeks. What happened to me? Freya wondered. She was sure she had a fever, but it was a slow, smoldering feeling she didn't want to stop. She looked at her phone face down on the nightstand. Her mind raced ahead. She could text him. She could text Dan and ask him to come over right away. The thought made her, She flipped her phone open, and it was already on the message. Good night, Freya. What am I doing? She paused. It was 5 a.m. on a school day. Was she really going to invite a guy who hadn't even kissed her over to fuck? That was crazy. He would be weirded out and never talk to her again. But she was so hot, she wanted to. Whoa. Whoa. What have I done? Mm. Yeah, what was going on in my life when I wrote these chapters? I was like, we were so restrained up until this point, and now we're just like, fuck it. I'm out. What am I doing? Freya paused. It was 5 a.m. on a school day. Was she really going to invite a guy she hadn't even kissed over? A guy who hadn't even kissed her over to fuck? That was crazy. He'd be weirded out and never talk to her again. But she was so riled. And Dad had said he would talk if she needed her. It was 5 a.m. on it. She set her phone down so hard she set her phone down so hard she worried for a second she might have cracked the screen. Even the thought made her feel gross. She wasn't like that. She hadn't even thought about him that way last night, except in a few brief flashes when she'd held him and he was so warm and firm against. Oh. So rough. Strap in. We got to get through this chapter. Her hand had snaked down her stomach at the memory. Okay, get it out of your system, she thought. But the feeling would not fade, even after she came again and again after that. Everything just ran hotter, and again she reached for the phone. Next to it was the star ball, and on impulse she reached out for it. She could feel it radiating heat before her fingers even touched it. Not for the first time, she wondered how it was generating that heat. The unusual feelings, the sleepwalking, the network issues. Again, she considered putting the star ball back in the meteorite. It had to be all in her head. As she thought about it, the hot feeling on her skin subsided. The star ball didn't seem so warm anymore. And as soon as she... oh my God. Yeah, I should never, ever write the word vulva. Last 2 chapters, man. Starting to lose hope in the story right here. What have I done? As she thought about it, the hot feeling on her skin subsided, and the star ball didn't seem so warm anymore. As soon as the feeling was gone, she wanted it back. It left her with a heavy, aching feeling. Rawness. She'd gotten off 3 times and still felt so unsatisfied. The thought of putting the star ball back in its shell seemed less important to her now. She was starting to feel nauseous. Worried, she tried getting up to see if the feeling would pass. She stripped the sheets off the bed, shaking her head slightly at the damp spot on the mattress. Her eyes lingered on the phone again, and she was so hungry. Hungry for food, hungry to be touched. She felt like she was just a humming, knotted ball of want, and nothing could sate her. She took a long shower and masturbated again twice. She was going for a third, but she was getting numb. Freya got dressed and picked up her phone, not to text Dan, but to search for female wet dream, then for hypersexuality. She read for a while and was relieved that at least the dream was natural, but the intensity was still worrying. She deleted those 2 entries from her browser history, then closed her eyes tightly. Then wondered if she had to tell Dr. Garboglio about this. She desperately didn't want to, but what if it kept happening? What if she felt this way in class? She didn't want to be some creep who had to sneak off to the bathroom to furtively masturbate, but she didn't know if she would have a choice. The want was just so strong. She wondered if it was even a good idea to go to school today. What's happening to me? Freya asked aloud, her voice a mumbling whisper. Oh my God. Oh, why? Thank you all for not saying shit during that chapter. Uh, oh no. Like that. Jesus HQ Christ. Well, at least I deleted the word vulva. God. Awful. All right, let's do it again. I know why that's in there. Lodi is doing gay conversion therapy on his stream, but it won't work on me. This shouldn't be convert. All right, so let's think about all the things that are wrong with this chapter. And really, it's like hyper specific about sex stuff, and I think there's too much kind of creepy voyeuristic shit like this. I think we need to dial back the titillating parts of this and have it be more of a clinical, like, what the fuck. I mean, people are going to read this somewhat for the fapping quality here. Oh God. Yeah, people are going to read this a little bit for the titillating parts, but I think we need to focus a little bit more on this is abnormal, right? This is not something that's happened to her previously, and I want to say for like the last 6 months or whatever, her sex drive would have been like very, very suppressed by intense depression, right? And let's like work with this a little bit. I know people who suffer from like clinical depression, and there are definitely people who just have like a lot of sex as a result of it. Not in like a healthy way either. In like the like I need to get like whatever tiny dopamine my body can produce. And you'll see people who one of the ways where crack leads to HIV a lot is people will be coming down off of crack and they will do anything to keep that sort of positive neurotransmitter loop going. And so they'll have all kinds of like risky, weird sex. I read a book about people in a crack house, and I'll never forget they had this thing called the Master Blaster, which was where like a guy would have like a crack pipe in his mouth, a dick in his mouth, and a dick up his ass, and just be like trying to get high on crack while all those things were happening to him, because they're trying to reach in like this addictive cycle. They're trying to reach like the maximum high that you can possibly get before their brains burn out into cinders and you're left as Dark Mage. So agreed on less detail and more of a reaction to specifically what's happening. Yeah, let's so Stratum doesn't like everything was a flame. But I like everything was a flame. Oh, yeah, you know what? Let's try that. Hmm. Hmm. What am I trying to say here? Okay, so all the detail makes it hard to know how much of it is their normal libido and how much is impact from the star ball. So that's a good thing. So we're gonna add in some points of comparison here, where she like basically hasn't done anything for like this last 6 months. And then we can get like a little deeper into what the character is thinking here. So great, another chapter we have to like essentially rewrite. What's the way to like put that? Uh, uh, Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm. So this is kind of like I like the inclusion of the like looking up at a god thing too, because in the other somewhat sex dream with Peter Burrell and Saria Jefferson or whatever, Saria also is like on her knees, like doing that like looking up thing there, where we really start to get into like this part of her psyche, where despite all this awkwardness and all this lack of confidence and so forth in this like very deep part of her mind, she thinks of herself in this like almost towering kind of way. uh, so that's kind of interesting right there. It's a note that we'll keep later on, because there are many more dream sequences in this book, and later on we'll want to just like do things like not have other people appear larger than her in her dreams. Like her view of herself is that she is like the most important and biggest person in her dreams. So that's kind of like a note that I want to put in here. Yeah, done. So real. It felt so real. In the darkness, she groped at twisted. She groped at her twisted sheets. She in the darkness, she groped at twisted sheets, half expecting to find Dan sleeping beside her. Like the other dreams, its stubborn. Mm. 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 Uh. Uh. Let me see. What do we have here? Jake afraid of vaginas. Ugh. Maybe use words other than wet, e.g., damp. Uh, yeah, so wetness there is like a weird word. What have I done? You know, yeah, it's fun to write these chapters, but it's not fun to edit them. This is awful. Uh, hire a guest editor from Erotica Archives for this chapter. So it's not really meant to be super erotic. It's meant to be like something fucking weird is going on, and it's a little horrifying. So yeah, I think we'll change up the language there more to that intent. But horror is like kind of like a fulcrum between attraction and revulsion. You know what I mean? So like we got to strike a more delicate balance and not just be like a Penthouse Forums letter, dear editor. You'll never guess what happened to me in the Starball today. I can scarcely believe it myself, but I promise you, my story is entirely true. You know, like that whole fucking situation right there. Yeah, just being sarcastic here. Hard fall for flying high for a week. Yeah, man. Well, it's like the new year and everything, but now it's time for all of us to like start working on our goals. You know what I mean? Like, I need to put in some concrete work. I had like a good idea for the other show, and I have an idea, which I think I was trying to tell you about yesterday, for the science fiction story about a war between India and China, the aftermath of it about 300 years from now, when the Earth is like very different. So yeah, I'm very interested in. The worst part about writing this is like while I'm editing this, I don't have time to write my other ideas, and I just every night before I fall asleep, I'm like thinking, I'm adding pieces to the story and thinking of new things that I want to add and everything, and I just have like sort of like this ball of fire slowly building in intensity in my head for this other story that I would really like to write, but I'm committed to doing this big ass story, and obviously it's more important to finish this thing, but ooh, I hate not having the free time in the morning to write. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do we do? Shoutouts to 69 Potato Boy 69 saying, "Hey, why am I still up? I don't know. I just wake up at like 4 a.m. every morning to work on my science fiction novel. So I can't help you there, guy. But yeah, so this is a science fiction novel. We're right now we're dealing with our protagonist has had like essentially a wet dream and is like, what the fuck is going on right there? And we're getting into some of the weirder parts of this novel. It's a strange novel, right? And there's been like a lot of build up to this point. We've earned like a lot of credibility with our readers, and then we were just about to throw it all away with like this straight smut scene. But now we're trying to fix the rough draft where it's just kind of gross, honestly, and turn it into something more where we like examine things that matter. Katie Lang, constant craving.mp3. Nice. No, yeah, let's cut that all out. Hmm. Oh wow, yeah, that's kind of like an interesting idea, where she feels like she doesn't deserve to have a sex dream about somebody. What a weird area of consent there. Oh my god, if we ever get to a point where I'm like spiraling ahead there, but like think about the point where we have some kind of realistic mind reading going on there. Like there's actual brain to computer interfaces, and people are directly in their thoughts. What if you start getting copyright claims for your wet dreams from people? It's like you owe me a royalty for spurting to me in the middle of the night there. God. Oh, what an awful world. But, we're moving towards it. We'll definitely, I do believe that we'll hit a point where people are essentially networked. Although, like, not sure whether or not we'll hit that before AI just makes it all irrelevant. But yeah, that's a fucked up situation right there. Uh, I think we can just cut this old bup bup bup. Yeah, that's oh no, we have to. Mm. Okay. Yeah, that's a good correct there. Mm-hmm. No. What was she even going to say? Hey, did you have an explosive wet dream just now, or was that just me? God. That's awful. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm. Whew, yeah, sorry to be so quiet as I'm so when I'm like doing actual rewrite work and everything, it's going to be like a lot of furrowed brow and just concentrating here. But I do think that we're doing like some strong work here to fix some of these problems with this chapter, which I think we can all agree this chapter was very out of place in the book and would have not only broken suspension for our readers, but I think a lot of uh, people would have just put the book down at that point. So that's like, ooh, you know, definitely if that got through without us, like taking this time to like think about the book and try to treat this like, it's a weird thing that we want to include in the book, but we have to justify our readers' attention. We have to, it can't just be porno essentially. And it's frequently a problem I have writing sex scenes that they are overly detailed and don't concentrate enough on sort of the emotional characteristics of what's taking place. And I think we're doing some good revision work here. This is definitely a chapter that we're gonna like immediately reread it and go for more edits here. So thank you for bearing with me through something. This is like kind of like a fucking icky chapter when you really get into it right there. Uh, but so, oh, shout outs. Thank you to Spathiwa for banning incog. That motherfucker is not welcome. Also on my shit list is Amiga 2000 or 5000 or whoever that guy is. He's just been like super gross. But we've more chapter to go. She finished stripping the bed, shaking her head at herself. Her eyes lingered on the phone, and she was hungry. And she was so hungry. Her eyes lingered on Freya's eyes. Let's see. Her eyes lingered on the phone, and she was hungry. And she was so hungry. Hungry for food. Hungry to be touched. She felt like she was just a humming, knotted ball of want, and nothing could sate her. She took a long, scalding shower and masturbated again twice. She was going for a third, but she... Mm-hmm. When the sheets were in the washing machine, Freya finally trusted herself to pick up her phone again. She searched for female wet dream, then for hypersexuality. She read for a while and was relieved that at least the dream was natural, but the intensity was still worrying. She deleted the entries. She deleted her browser history, and then closed her eyes tightly. And oh yeah, we don't need to close her eyes tightly. She deleted her browser history and wondered if she had to tell Dr. Garboglio about this. She desperately didn't want to, but what if this kept happening? What if she felt this way in class? She'd want to be some creep who had... Yeah. Oh, that's a good note. She tried for a third, but she was getting numb. So Stratum is asking, has she had crushes or whatever before? How is this communicated? So that's a good point where we should have like some contrast as to what's happening there. Oh wow, a lot of people just got that diggity DOS happening there. Why are they even fucking with this? Hold on. Talking about it's 7 o'clock. I need to go get more coffee. But I think we're gonna edit for a significantly. This is a good note about whether that needs to be communicated. Mm-hmm. So I think, but the intensity was still worrying. The most she'd ever gotten off before was 3 times, and that was mainly to see if she could. Nothing at all like this, hitting her out of nowhere after a 6-month drought. Freya deleted her browser history and wondered if she had to tell Dr. Garboglio about this. She desperately didn't want to, but what if this kept happening? What if she felt this way in class? She didn't want to be some creep sneaking off to the bathroom to furtively masturbate. But she'd barely felt like she even had but she'd barely felt like she had a choice in this. The desire was just so strong. She wondered if it was even a good idea to go to school today. What's happening to me? Freya asked aloud, her voice a mumbling whisper. Okay, so yeah, just FYI, um, if you don't find this kind of weird shit uh, interesting, hop off of this train ride right now. Uh, is not gonna get better there. Let's see. Oh, asked aloud, looking at the star ball. Hmm. I think bringing the star ball into that chapter helps it seem more connected to the rest of the story. Yeah, I think so. So that's where I want to get. There. This sentence is not good. Like it's a nascent sentence or whatever. It's really hard to get the wording on this, right? I think like part of it is like I'm due to just stand up and move around and take a break and everything. So Spathiwa says, remember when Ilhan Omar was going to be arrested any minute now? Guess what? Current status, any minute now. Yeah, yeah, there was some weird claims about her. Yeah, she's just like swarming with like conspiracy theories about marrying her brother and that she's a Saudi plant or working directly with Iran or whatever there. And they brought like a case against her in like Florida civil court, but it's just fucking civil court. You can make up any dumb shit in civil court, and I'm sure the judge threw that shit out. Um, but you know what you can say. So people are saying, "Are you doubting the Imam of Peace?" God, what a ridiculous sideshow all that shit is. What's happening to me? Freya asked aloud. No answer came from her empty house. She knelt down by her nightstand and peered at the alien orb, willing it to speak. The longer she stared, the more. As she stared, she became increasingly afraid that it would do just that. Okay, I like that. We can end on that note without much of a problemo there. 1, 2, 3. Let me see what happens in the next chapter. Shut up, Siri. Oh, cool. All right, finally. All right, so we start to get into a music scene after this. Okay, so we have work to do. Let's. I do need to go and get coffee, but it's like a little too early right there. What happened before? Okay, so we have like this weird fucking Starball scene, and like where he's like promising a stairway to heaven and everything like that. So this is where I'm glad I didn't just delete that chapter the way that I thought about it. So what we have here, let's take a look at how our pacing is going right here. So in our last several chapters, let's just review. So we do. So 36, you have like this kind of relieving, like, oh, things are happening and so forth. Just meeting new people, etc., getting interested in fighting and everything. And then where does this terminate here? Terminates like with this weird note about like this fight where she's looking at Radomir, who is just like very I don't want to say like sort of aroused by the violence on the screen there, which doesn't have a sexual connotation at the time, more of like a creepy connotation there. So creepy note there to end out that chapter. Then we get to chapter 37, and this is the scene where we have Malcolm Lewis getting into a fight. So it's a little bit more of a comedic note and like thoughts of her just being kind of like a shitty friend to Jane and everything. One thing that we need to add to this chapter. Mm. Mm-hmm. For I realized the thing with Malcolm would be much worse after this. Word of what had happened would be everywhere at school. He would be furious. She wondered if she should try and get a restraining order against him, but he hadn't really done anything yet she could prove. Again, she thought of the black case in Lassa's closet. Okay, cool. So I just want to escalate a little bit the threat of Malcolm Lewis there and her like realization that this is going to make things significantly worse. And in the rewrite, we need to make things significantly worse for her. Like he's just like he's not present enough in the story for the threat that he's going to represent a little bit later. So that's we're trying to like add that guy in there to sort some of that out there. So then we have this chapter where Dan and her are like really opening up. This is kind of like a heartwarming chapter. There's still some awkwardness there, but I think really, really good chapter. And we did like stellar work on this yesterday. Very happy with how that goes. The Starball chapter, like, I don't know, probably needs a little bit more work. Why can't I spell Zarathustra? Whatever. It's a comment. It doesn't need to be correct. Stairway to Heaven. And then she's woken up by a tremendous nocturnal explosion of loin juices. Zarathustra. Zarathustra. That's why. Well, let's go ahead and type it right so that maybe I remember it the next time. Reply to your fucking self. Zarathustra. Zarathustra. Okay, cool. So there's that. Then I'm gonna I'm gonna just walk away. So I'm just gonna leave you guys staring at a dog for like 2 seconds. Please make the chat as entertaining as possible because I'll be back in like 5-10 minutes. I'm gonna get some coffee and then we're gonna make it fucking happen. So stay tuned, but really don't. You can totally wander away. I'll be back in like 5 minutes. true believers, I have returned. All right, hold up. Let me get no. Look at all this spam up in the chat right here. What's all this dogger spam right here? It's just dogs as far as the eye can see right there. Okay. Yeah, so that was like a productive break. I got some coffee and wound up being like 11 minutes. Stopped and moved my motorcycle for alternate side parking. Shout out to everybody who remained through the excessive dog spam. But shout out to Spiffy. He's a real one right there. Yeah, Tim Pool 2020 right there. I was going to start the stream with my Tim the Fool Pool. I think I don't know, man. He should really do something to be less annoying. You know what I mean? Because, you know, like he wants to be a journalist. And yeah, just he's like really kind of jumped off the my willingness to pay attention to somebody has significantly declined as he's doing like these 20-minute like owning the libs videos and everything. I just he doesn't have like a personality that I relate to. I think he's just a little cringy or whatever there. So last night, like I went out with my girl to she had left her phone in an Uber on New Year's Eve with me, and we had to get a replacement phone because the I think the Uber driver just jacked it. So we get the replacement phone, and it took like a really long time, and I was like, you know, I've lost a phone before, and it sucks taking like an $800 beat at the start of the fucking month. So I took her out to like a really nice dinner. So, you know, compounding the problem of being low on money by me also being broke. But we went to like a really, really nice place on Fulton Street in Brooklyn called Sisters. And the interior is just dope. Like inside, it's this big open space. They have a giant ass skylight. And inside, there are all these plants like kind of growing up the walls. They've got like creepers that are growing up, all these plants that do really well in low life. And the floor has like these tiles done so that it looks like an interlinked weave or whatever, the like white and black, like a really, really well done marble floor. And the food was just fucking phenomenal. So I got lamb meatballs and like a kind of kale Caesar salad there. And the kale Caesar salad, the way that they had done it was they had tossed the salad with like a really rich Caesar dressing and like little chunks of Parmesan. And then they dusted the whole thing with ground up panko and like additional cheese and so forth. And I was like, Jesus, why isn't this how they do every single Caesar salad that I've ever had in my life? Like the kale was perfect. It was so much better than like I get like a Caesar is like one of my go-to salads, and it was just so fucking amazing. And then with the lamb meatballs had like a farro pilaf, and I've still got some leftovers in my fridge, and I'm gonna go to town on them there. Then they had my favorite rye, which is Sazerac. So that was on offer. So I got like a Sazerac there. And then we also tried this new sparkling sake that the Hitachino brewery is putting out. Apparently the brewers own like a bunch of sake manufacturers as well. And it was like a delightful beverage. It was like taking a sip of a cool day in summer. You know what I mean? Like I'm like a relatively big sake fan. I don't get all gay with it like Dark Mage might, but I doubt. Like the only sake that is going to be in Dark Mage's near future is going to be like Pruno that he's actually made from like wringing out his socks. Nigga's broke. But yeah, it's just like I was like describing how much I like the meal. And my girl was like, Jesus, like you're talking about sex. And it was like on that level of satisfaction. It was just such a good meal. And we had gone out the night before for like New Year's to a restaurant. And the restaurant was just super crowded. It was like high end Mexican food, and the food was actually really decent. I think I talked a little bit about it there. But they just had just blaring music. The speaker was like right over our heads, and I'm looking up at it, and it's a pile speaker and installation, and I'm just like, that music could be 20 decibels quieter, and it would be a better dining experience. And it was just a real grating. The restaurant was real crowded. Service was relatively slow. And then this other restaurant that we went to, like I'm talking with the bartender, having a really good time. All the conversation in the restaurant is like kind of low and understated. You can hear each other, and they had like really good music playing. There was a Amy Winehouse song that I really liked that I hadn't heard before. That I'm going to try and track down. I didn't. It's like one of those situations where I'm not going to pull out my phone to Shazam it up because it's just an enchanting evening. I'll just try to track it down later. I should have remembered some lyrics or something. But yeah, and their speakers are Genelecs. So a lot of this is just snake oil and so forth. But just putting it out there, a place that spends like 15 grand on their sound system is going to sound like a little bit better than some guys that got some pile horse shit that looks like it rolled off of the back of a white van. Ugh. But yeah. So yeah, I was feeling a little bad that because she had sort of picked the restaurant for New Year's Eve, and it wasn't quite what we wanted it to be. But then absolutely the meal last night just made up for it and so forth. And like, I don't know if I should give relationship advice, but if you're with somebody and they have like some financial misfortune or something like that, taking them out to a nice dinner just goes like a long way. Just to remind them, like, hey, even if you're short on cash, the we can go ahead and like somebody will take you out for a nice dinner or something like that. So what have we got there? Something about gaffer tape. It's a little worrying. Hold on, I gotta reload the I'd put gaffer tape over the PAL logo rather than display that to the public. Well, they actually were anticipating that because their logo was actually beneath the speaker grill. You know what I mean? So you couldn't get at it with gaffer tape without unscrewing a bunch of shit. Yeah, I've owned exactly one piece of PAL equipment in my entire career, and it was an amplifier, and not a good amplifier. You know what I'm saying? Just really kind of a piece of dog shit. It sounds awful. It's like all buzzy and everything. And yeah, just junk, really and truly. And I think pretty much everything is going to be that way. Hold on just a second. Who is this motherfucker? Uh-huh. Oh, I don't know who that actually is. I might have banned somebody in here. I thought it was Juan. I got the immediate message afterward. Let me see what that ban was all about there. I got a question mark as to why I got banned. All right, let me fucking figure it out there. Anyhow. All right, so the last thing that we're going to do today is we're going to go back over chapter 40 and try to read it again. And every sex chapter should just be looked at again in the light of not having a big old hard on that you can hang a 4-rail gate from. So ridiculous. Actually, let me think about this. Do I even have the fucking energy well, we should go through it because I made everybody wait for like 10 minutes to get to it. And but yeah, you can see where like my attention is all over the place and everything. All right, I'm gonna focus right here. Yeah, I feel like a lot of these scenes that we write like this, we'll have to like look at them in like the sober light of morning and be like, you know, what are we actually trying to do here? Is this hot? Is this not? You know what I mean? So an orgasm woke Freya. It was a big one. White lining. Yeah, like. Yeah, I guess one of the things I struggle with here is there there's like a distinction between uh, visualized light in your mind, like where you're aware the whole time, where like getting off like really hard, there's like this flash of light, or like this brilliant glowing thing, but you're aware like this is not actual light information. This is like my brain is lighting up or something like that. But what do we have here? Her toes girdled. Brilliance flared behind her eyelids. Her hands clenched and her toes curled. Afterward, her legs trembled for so long she was afraid they would never stop. Afterward, her legs trembled for so long she was afraid they wouldn't stop. She was panting in the dark, trying to make sense of what had happened. Pieces of the dream were flowing together like individual components of a T-1000 Terminator unit hell-bent on slaying John Connor once and for all. Pieces of the dream were flowing together like droplets converging into a pool. In the dream, Freya hadn't sent Dan home. She brought him to her bedroom, stripping him down as he asked her if she were sure. She brought him into her bedroom, stripping him down as he asked if she was sure about this. She pushed him down against the bed and climbed on top of him. Mm-hmm.
When she slipped him inside, he had an expression of awe, as if he were looking up at a god. So I like the use of god there over goddess, like kind of critical to me there, and I like that like singular note. In the darkness, she groped at twisted sheets, half expecting to find Dan sleeping asleep beside her. Yeah. The dream stubbornly refused to fade, just like the others. When had she forgotten how to forget her dreams? When had she forgotten how to forget her dreams? Once she would have given anything to remember like this. So Gunpowder 20 is just linking something in YouTube. Yeah, that's a great way to say hello to somebody. Just like post a YouTube link that they're probably not going to click. So yeah, welcome to the stream. Gunpowder 20. This is a science fiction editing stream. I doubt anybody will just randomly click your YouTube thing, but I could be wrong. Real talk. What do we got here? In the darkness, she groped at twisted sheets, half expecting to find Dan beside her. The dream stubbornly refused to fade, just like the others. When had she forgotten how to forget her dreams? Once she would have given anything to remember them. But this was worrying. But this new inability worried her. As Freya moved to turn on the light, she felt dampness beneath her, and she paused, caught on the edge of unreality. Someone. And she actually slept with someone? Freya had an unhappy realization that it was much more likely that she just had her period. Freya had an unhappy realization that it was more likely she had just had her period. She had her period unexpectedly. Freya had an unhappy realization. Freya had an unhappy realization that it was more likely she had her period unexpectedly. She flicked on the light, prepared to see a mess, but everything was just wet. But it wasn't blood. Everything was just wet. Not quite enough for her to have peed the bed, and there was no smell of urine. But still, a lot, soaking through her pajama bottoms. Soaking through her pajamas. She would have to wash her sheets. She hoped the mattress was okay. I came in a dream? Freya felt ashamed. She began stripping the fitted sheet off her bed, feeling like she needed to do a load of laundry right away to hide this. It had soaked through to the mattress. She hung her head and shut her eyes. She hadn't gotten off at all for the last 6 months, hadn't even wanted to try. Now, out of nowhere, this had happened. She'd done this. So I like the like done this. Wait, is he shilling Rick Roll in 2020? Wow. Wow. What a retro genius right here. Well, I mean, he's got you, Spathy. You clicked it. You got trolled, buddy. He's gotcha. Or maybe Spathy just has the URL memorized at this point. Imagine that. She hadn't gotten off at all for the last 6 months, hadn't even wanted to try. Now, out of nowhere, she'd done this. It felt so wrong. She tried to tell herself it was natural, that she was just backed up, but the guilt remained. Thank God Lassa was gone. Oh, that doesn't need to, Thank God Lassa was gone. Freya slumped onto the dry side of the bed, wondering what was wrong with her. There was a sudden emptiness as it sank in that Dan hadn't really slept with her. He wasn't about to bound in from brushing her teeth and tell her it was all okay. Freya had no business dreaming about him like that, as she felt like a creep. She knew Dan didn't see her that way. She was the one who'd initiated the hug and held it for way too long. She felt herself cringe at the memory. Her cheeks were burning hot. But the rest of her was hot too. All of her was burning up. Her nipples were stiff. Her breasts had a deep, throbbing discomfort she sometimes got with her period, but it wasn't due for 2 weeks. She was ready to go again. What's happening to me? Freya wondered. She was sure she had a fever, but it was a slow, smoldering feeling that she didn't fully want to stop. She had a sudden urge to text Dan. Her phone was face down on her nightstand. When she flipped it over and unlocked it, it was already on his message. So, if it ends in Q, it's Rickroll. Or CQ, it's Rickroll. Yeah, how many videos do you think you've messed out on? Wow, so Dark Mage just got kicked out of his mom's meth trailer. I like that the story of Dark Mage is interwoven into the situation right here. God. So somebody, apparently somebody bought him a plane ticket for a job interview in California. I'm dubious that such a ticket exists. And if it does exist, I think it's almost certainly somebody who is leading him out there just to get him the fuck out of the state. But so it's wait, DQCQ is the pattern for Rick Roll. Oh wow, oh that's kind of neat. Yeah, so that's valuable info for our listeners right here. So one thing I don't want to do, and one thing I want to be cognizant of here, is I don't want to have the idea that a female can only be sexual if like some outside force is like fucking like dialing her up to whatever there. And that's like I can anticipate that's a criticism that we'll face right here. I just want to point out that all the chapters that have to do with anything that is like expressly feminine, where it's outside of my own experience and I don't expect that I can bridge the gap. These are chapters where we'll definitely require assistance from a female reader and definitely like a skilled female editor who can bring that perspective that I can't expect to get right. You know, I can try. Like, obviously, I'm thinking about it. I'm trying to put myself in their shoes and everything, but I'm not such a fool as to think that I can take this totally discrete experience from my own and hit all the marks correctly. You know what I mean? This is you know, a lot of this is going to be a woman that's going to have to pick over this and be like, yo, this is not how that shit works. What the fuck are you doing? Etc. I know ahead of time because I've done the same thing before, where like my editor usually I really like having a woman be my editor, and not just for the weird dom sub power relationship thing, but because I do think that men and women are different enough that it's super valuable to get your opposite gender's perspective when you're having stuff edited. He posted some weird manic video with him crying over old dead chat. Yeah, that guy's on meth, right? He's on methamphetamine and he's in a downward spiral. And like a lot of us don't think that he will live out the year. Just putting it out there. So, Fucking crazy. But, you know, it is enjoyable drama while it's going on there. Uh, her phone was, she had the sudden urge to text Dan. Her phone was face down on our nightstand. When she flipped it over and unlocked it, it was already on his message. Good night, Freya. Freya paused. It was 5 a.m. What was she thinking? She couldn't text him now. What was she even going to say? Hey, thanks for the heart to heart. Want to come over and fuck? It was insane. Dan would never talk to her again. Mm-hmm. It was insane, and if she did, Dan would never talk to her again. She set her phone down so hard for a moment she was afraid she'd crack the screen. She wasn't like that. She hadn't even thought about him that way last night, except for maybe at the very end in the driveway when they'd hugged. It had been so long since she'd held someone, and he was so warm. Her hand snaked down her stomach at the memory. Okay. Get it out of your system, Freya thought. But the feeling would not fade, even after she came again, and again after that. Everything just ran hotter. See, she was reaching for her phone when on impulse she touched the star ball sitting on the nightstand beside it. It was radiating heat again, like it had when she was reading Dying Inside. How was it generating that heat? It was all starting to be too much to ignore, the unusual feelings, the sleepwalking, the network issues. Network issues sounds wrong there. The internet disruption. Oh, I like the sound of the internet disruption. How am I misspelling disruption? That's how you spell disruption. Fuck you. Fuck you. Yeah. Yeah, it's spelled exactly correct. Hey, fuck off. There are extra, like, periods or some shit? Like, hold on. There we go. See? I believe it. I believe in myself. That's right. All things she was ignoring, pushing. All the things she was ignoring. All the things she was ignoring, everything she pushed to the back of her mind. Again, she considered sealing the star ball back in the halves of the meteorite. As she thought about it, the hot feeling on her skin subsided. The star ball didn't seem so warm anymore. As soon as the feeling was gone, she wanted it back. It left her with a heavy, aching rawness. She'd gotten off 3 times since she woke up and still felt so unsatisfied. Thoughts of sealing the star ball up seemed far less important, and when she tried to channel... Yeah, it's just Pages, you know, just doing some dumb shit. I do like Pages. I got a shout out to Apple. I do like Pages significantly better than Word, and like a main part of it is like the interface is much less cluttered, right? There's not bullshit on my screen that I have to concentrate on. It really does a decent job of getting the interface out of the way and just letting me concentrate on what I'm there to do. There are many word processors where they take that to another level. Like ones where you can't even tab out of them, ones where there's no interface whatsoever and it's just like a blank screen and everything vanishes. And it used to be that I needed something like that, but now I've just gotten like a little bit better at focusing. I say that even as I'm on this aside when we're meant to be editing the chapter. But yeah, it used to be more important to me, but now it's not. Yeah, like I feel pretty confident in my ability to just sit down and like hammer out what I want to write. She felt thoughts of sealing the star ball. Thoughts of sealing up the star ball seemed less important by the second. When she tried to channel her thoughts back, to the idea, she felt nauseous. Freya rose to her feet to see if the feeling would pass or if she needed to. Freya rose to her feet, ready to dash to the bathroom if she needed to throw up. It was a little better when she was standing up. She finished stripping the bed, shaking her head at herself. Yeah, so Starball sounds like a drug. I have to tell you, like, I know everything that happens in this book, right? I would take the Starball drug in a heartbeat, no consideration whatsoever. I would do it immediately. I would even do it just to keep myself from throwing myself into the Hudson River, you know, like, or just to have like a little, so my hand would be warm in the winter when I'm like walking around and so forth, or just to have like a cool marble, right? Many reasons to have the Starball in your pocket. But yeah, if it's sounding cool to you now, wait. Freya rose to her feet, ready to dash to the bathroom if she needed to throw up. It was a little better when she was standing. She finished stripping the bed, shaking her head at herself. Her eyes lingered on the phone, and she was so hungry. Hungry for food. Hungry to be touched. That reminds me of like a Crystal Castles song where it's hungry for sleep, hungry for like shit it. You know what I'm talking about? Whoa, 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 whoa. It's like their most famous song. So, but yeah, shout outs to that fucking album. It's a good thing. It's a shame that the guy's either super rapey or the woman is either super lie, and probably the guy's super raping. I'm just putting it out there. But yeah, it was a good fucking album. I love that album. Don't worry, Captain. I'll do my best to ensure the security of. No, it's like, don't worry, Captain. I'll do my scientific best to as I command your fleet, or something like that. I don't even know what that's fucking from. Maybe you Star Trek heads out there can identify. No, now I want to know. Yeah. Is it like the Borg or something like that? Yeah. What's that even fucking about? Diana from Godard's Letterboxes? Oh, it's from V. Diana V. Huh. Okay. So I never watched V, so I don't know what that's all about. But I think I was looking at an advertisement for it not too long ago. It's like one of those like doppelganger fear type things. Oh, apparently Pete Buttigieg is no longer the mayor of South Bend. And he's no longer Mayor Pete, but fully embracing the anal Pete nom de plume that the internet has so graciously provided him with. Her eyes lingered on the phone, and she was hungry. And she was so hungry. Hungry for food, hungry to be touched. Let's take out the food part. And she was so hungry to be touched. Freya felt like she was just a humming, knotted ball of want, and nothing could sate her. She took a long, scalding shower and masturbated again twice. She tried for a third, but she was getting numb. Yeah, shout outs to that edit right there. Stratum is just really like hammering it home with some amazing edits today. And also Spathy was like definitely contributed to the cause of making this a less bullshit chapter. When the sheets were in the washing machine, Freya finally trusted herself to pick up her phone again. She searched for female wet dream, then for hypersexuality. So hypersexuality is actually like a thing that happens. This is like, sometimes this will happen primarily to women, is my understanding. Like something just goes haywire and they're like, I got to fuck like 24/7. And it's usually associated with brain trauma, is my understanding. But Wait, did he lose an election for mayor or something like that? What happened to Mayor Pete right there? If he lost the election for mayor, he can just quit running for president. Like, you can't be Mayor Pete and you're not a fucking mayor. Uh, wow. Yeah, it'd be amazing if he just lost his fucking election. Yeah, I'm not a huge Buttigieg fan. So I'm not unhappy to have him. He resigned and didn't run again. Okay. You can still hit him with like, they call you mayor. You're not even a fucking mayor. Get out of here, you fraud. Go back to your wine cave. Yeah, he's done. He's done. IMO. Like his. Yeah, it's looking pretty rough for the Dildocrats in 2020. But you know, Donatello could still hang himself or choke to death on a fucking Big Mac. All these things are possible. She read for a while and was relieved that at least the dream was natural, but the intensity was still worrying. The most she'd ever gotten off before was 3 times, and that was mostly to see if she could. Nothing at all like this, hitting her out of nowhere after a 6-month drought. Freya deleted her browser history and wondered if she had to tell Dr. Garboglio about this. She desperately didn't want to, but what if this kept happening? What if she felt this way in class? She didn't want to be sneaking off to the bathroom to furtively masturbate. But she barely felt like she had a choice in this. The desire was so strong. She wondered if it was even a good idea to go to school today. What's happening to me? Freya asked aloud. There was no answer from the empty house. She knelt down by her nightstand and peered at the alien orb, willing it to speak. As she stared at her reflection, her distorted reflection stared back at her. Mm-hmm. Ooh, love that. Then we add in like the reflection part of it there. Good, good, good. Okay, so congratulations. We have taken a real garbage heap of a chapter that was like super ham-fisted, like borderline pornography, and did very little in terms of like accomplishing our goals for character development and something. This is a chapter like if I were an agent, right? And I took a look at this chapter, I would then stop reading the manuscript and hit the like button that sends the form rejection letter, right? More so than any other chapter in the book. Some of the Starball chapters, I've been like, does this really need to be here or whatever? But this is the first part where we can say, like, obviously you were thinking with your dick when you wrote this chapter. It's not good, right? The first spot in the book. And that's not too bad. If we're like 39 chapters in, there have been other ones where I've been like, okay, we need to rewrite this or whatever. But this one kind of took me off guard with how bad it was. So Stratum says maybe turn the second usage of this to what if this kept happening. Oh yeah, that's probably true. She wondered if she had to tell Dr. Garboglio. Freya deleted her browser history and wondered if she had to tell Dr. Garboglio. She desperately didn't want to, but what if it kept happening? What if she felt this way in class? She didn't want to be sneaking off to the bathroom to furtively masturbate. Mm-hmm. Good edit. Yeah, because there, you can see like so many pronouns there, and the pronouns are just like us dancing around the concept of her like masturbating. Um, just because like there's some you can, and even in my voice as I'm talking about it right here, you can hear that there's some taboo uncertainty surrounding it, right? Because it's not like something that you just talk about there. And even I, as I'm like describing this whole thing, we're using kind of weasel words to get around it. And it's good to like just drive to the heart of the matter. Like, what is this really? Like naked lunch. What's on the end of every fucking fork? I cannot. Oh, you guys have been so helpful with this chapter. And thank you to like nobody was just like eye rolling, like I'm fucking out of here. This is trash. Because yeah, we're gonna have more. You know, like this book was written over the course of 3 years, right? There were mornings where I just rolled in there and I was fucking hungover, or I hadn't had enough sleep, or you know, I just was running on empty creatively, where I will have done. We went from Lady Chatterley's damp sheets to 50 Shades of Bean Flicking. He says, I don't know what I'm talking about right there. Yeah, like I think it's a vast improvement. I think it's a more interesting chapter too, like bringing the Star Ball in more heavily, because what this chapter is about is, am I being mind controlled by an alien probe to jack off? Like, is it trying to fucking influence my decisions? Wait, hold up. Oh, okay, that just mutes the volume for everything. Let me see. Okay, cool. I was afraid I had announcements turned off or anything. Okay, so we did a fantastic one. I do have a treat for you in the next chapter, which is... so here I have Starball notes suggest toning down its power a lot, requiring physical contact for some of its transmission, maybe a little fleck of metal beneath their skin. Okay, that's from 2018, right? That's no longer a valid comment. So we did that. We done that. In fact, I'm gonna delete that right there. 1, because we're on chapter 41 now, not chapter 39, and 2, because we made a lot of those changes, except for like the fleck of water. So yeah, really, I could not have done that without you guys. And thank you so much. Like really from the bottom of my heart, it means a tremendous amount to me to have people like willing to hop in on this project with me and like offer me their time and attention and really like give some good feedback on this guy. It's so much harder to do this on your own. So really, really thank you. Thank you to everybody, even if you're just watching this thing. I feel like so much less of a fucking loser if I have like 5 people watching me than it's just me staring out into that void while it stares back. I think things are starting to fucking heat up in the story. Especially like having that chapter be a good chapter now. Yeah, I'm jazzed about this. So this is not the only editing stream that we're going to do today, but it is a good place to stop, right? And just take a break for a minute. So I think we've edited from about 5 o'clock to about 7:30 or whatever. That's a good spot. And if I pace myself, I'll have a little bit more energy for. Oh, also I'm just getting like coffeeed up, and time to like play some video and work on some other stuff. I'm going to be working a little bit on a today. I'd like to. I'm going to do a painting thing, trying to get like an intro video for this. So if anybody out there likes playing around with weird. Oh, 107 subscribers. That's fucking awesome, man. I like that we're moving up in the world. Shout out to everybody out there tuning into this for the first time. If I haven't said hi to you by name and you weren't just trying to spam us with some bullshit, you're a real one. This week we're going to be doing promotion of this on Reddit. There's like a self-promo Saturday on the science fiction community. Again, I think we have like a really strong situation here. So if there's anybody you think would enjoy this, feel free to let them know about it. Don't spam on behalf of the show, obviously, but just places where it would be welcome. The other part of it, what is it? So yeah, I'm going to try and work on an intro video to start the stream with each morning. And I'm going to record that. My goal is to record that today. And then I'm going to see if like one of my online friends feels like doing like some synthesizer music or some weird fucking music for it. Maybe like a cover of a song that you think would be particularly good for this. But this is a good spot for, and I'm going to, like, if nobody's into it or whatever, I'm going to just, I might just hook up my K-oscillator every morning and just be like, and just like fuck around with a different synth lead. Or maybe I'll set up some synths and something, and every morning I'll just noodle around or something like that. But it'd be cool. I know one of the things people really like about the other show is the intro to it. It would be cool to have like an intro kind of anchoring this each morning. And so if anybody feels like taking a stab at that, I will hopefully have like a video put together later this evening. It's one of my goals for today. All right, but also a goal is to edit more. So we will be back. Really, really, again, like I already said, thank you, but thank you so much. Really strong work on a difficult chapter, and I think people were really adult about it, and it's a better book. It's already just so much better. You know, like normally with an edit of a book, you want to make the book, you want to come away feeling like this is 15 to 20% better than what we originally had on the page. And like, you know, this is just, you know, the author quantifying. It has like very little worth. But we took a chapter that was like maybe a 3 or something like that, and now that chapter is like a 7 or an 8, right? Or maybe it's even higher because it's still titillating, right? It's still there's still like that allure of like, wow, what the fuck? But now it's justified. Now we've earned it, and we've grounded the character a little bit, and stoked. All right, thank you, boys, and we shall return.